Hi, it's Mr. Pelargonium and I'm back with a fully stocked glass house ready for action in my new abode here in Farringdon in England, in the UK. And I put together a bit of a snippet video with bits and pieces from all of the final sort of week and a half or so that I put the glass house together. So I hope you enjoy that, and let's have a look at that now. I've begun the process of completing the floor in my glass house, and I think one or two of you may, be interested to know how I'm doing this, why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. You may be able to see that this is my floor. I've got a thick plastic sheet down now. The ground did dry out quite a bit. It's been nice and dry. Rather bizarrely, I think the weather has actually been better and warmer here than it was in Los Angeles, rather bizarrely, but there we go. And this has now been pushed down. I pushed it into the corners. I'll seal it even more, but all I'm going to do now is put an aggregate base over it. Now the thing is, what this polythene is going to do is basically seal it off, prevent weeds and plants from the ground growing up. You've got to do that if you're going to have, say, a dirt floor base. I've never actually done this before because I've always had a solid, like concrete or paved base in my larger glass houses that I've worked with in the past. I'm using what are known as cantilever side shelves. So they're going to be held by the sides of the glass house. And so because of that, I can just have basically a sort of a gravelish floor base that doesn't have to be perfectly level. If you've got, solid upright table type staging, you will need to have a very level base because otherwise you'll be all higgledy-piggledy and on the flooring. So it's important that you have a very level base for sort of table type staging. Okay, right now, so I've got all of my flooring down now. I've just been just packing in the edges. I've cut back a lot of the edging of the polythene. And what I'm doing now, I'm actually starting to put the shelving up because I'm really working fast because I need to get my plants out and into some light. And I'm working really fast to get this done. So the flooring's gone down well. I have to get quite a bit of this this sort of natural sort of pebble stone, but it's gone down very well. It's looking good, it's looking nice. I give it a little bit of a water just to get rid of the dust on the top. So now it's time to sort out the shading. So I'm going to be doing that this afternoon. So this afternoon I'm going to be sorting out the shelving, which is very important because I've got to get my plants in the light. Okay, there we are. The staging is done. I've completed it. All this work, insulation and staging, has been over several days. It's been quite a lot of hard work, but I've got it there and done. Don't worry if you think you've had a few drinks because this side is on purposely lower. This side is on purposely lower than the other side. So yeah, bear that in mind when you're perhaps viewing. But I'm glad to say it's done. I have got one bigger gap which I put in purpose. Now, what I'm going to do now, I've got to start getting the plants in. That's the important thing. Okay, I'm making a start now on getting my plants into the glass house. I'm doing it very much on a sort of, in a way, a priority basis in picking out plants, trays that have got plants in that perhaps aren't looking the best of health. This is one it's a Stella, one of my Robin Louises. They're just very dry, and I've on purposely kept them like that just so they don't rot back. But the important thing is for me is to give them a very light watering, literally in the saucer, no more than a minute or two, just to suck up a bit so that they just don't, if you can really easily overwater them in this situation. So I'll be very careful with how I do it. But otherwise, it's interesting. The Regals seem to have really done well in how they've been in the garage. I mean, they look as fresh as a daisy. For some reason they don't seem to have dried out quite so much. Their demand is not perhaps quite as much as the zonal plants, but some of these are looking really, really good. These are some of my young seedlings that I've got, and they're looking really good, so I'm quite happy with those. Another issue that we've had is that a lot of the plants are actually quite dusty because they've been on ground level, and we're effectively living on a building site at the moment, so there's a lot of dust, a lot of sand flying about. So I am cleaning some of that off. I'm not being over the top. My key thing at the moment is getting the plants in the greenhouse, so that's really my main priority. It's actually quite funny how I'm pulling some of these plants out of these containers. These have been in the garage. I pulled one out there. There's a young Point South, which is a basic zonal, and that is absolutely no different to how I would have expected it to look if it had been through the winter in a glass house. It's just nice and green. It's a bit damp. I've obviously watered it, and it's just been stuck. That's had very little light on it, to be honest. So it just goes to show each plant needs totally different requirements, because I couldn't have done any better with that if I had not moved and it had been in my large glass house in full sun all winter. So it just goes to show. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that nice little summary of the completing part of my glass house. Everything's in now, and everything is doing quite well, although I'm very late with my stopping for the show in June, the national show in June. But hopefully, you never know, we might get some decent weather in spring. And of course, the show is technically a week later than it would normally be in an average year, but due to commitments with Fibrex Nursery. But we go on from there, so I'm hopefully be back very soon with information on what you should be doing with your plants at this time of year in the early part of spring. So I'll look forward to seeing you again then. So bye for now.